Welcome everyone to Science Prodigy Session 24, Natural Disasters Part 2. So thank you all for joining today's lesson. And as always, if you are new, we have a couple of rules. Always have proper etiquette, good manners. And if you do have a question, please type it in the chat and also raise your hand, participants, and I'll try to answer it my best. Okay. Also, if there is a problem in the class, you can just type it in the chat and I'll gladly find out and finish and try to make sure that the problem gets achieved and ends. Okay then, now that that's through, let's start with our warm-up. If you weren't here for yesterday's lesson, you don't have to do today's warm-up, but you can try. It's always good to have class participation. So we have two warm-ups. You can choose either one of them. And you guys have 2 minutes to do the warm-up. You can type your answers in the chat. Okay, then let's go over the warm-up today. So if you do have an answer, please raise your hand in the participants. Okay, so warm-up 1. Name 5 tectonic plates and name the four main types of volcanoes. Okay, so let's start off with Aryan. What's your answer for number 1?
So the 5 tectonic plates are the African plate, the South American plate, the North American plate, the Australian plate, and the Pacific plate.
Nice.
And then 4 volcanoes. The 4 types of volcanoes are shield volcanoes, composite volcanoes, lava domes, and the last one is cinder cone volcanoes.
Yep, that's it. You got it. Perfect job, Aryan. That's exactly correct. You could have said any of the 5 tectonic plates, including Pacific plate, Arabian plate, Kogel's plate, and Australian plate. And for the 4 main types of volcanoes, it is the lava dome, the shield, cinder cone, and composite. So let's go on to warm-up number 2. What is the ring of fire? Where is it located? On what main plate? And name 5 volcanoes on the ring of fire. So please raise your hand so I can call on you. Okay, let's go with Kamlesh this time.
Okay, so in the ring of fire is like a place where it's like a big place where there's lots of volcanoes. It's located in Asia, North America. It's mostly located in Asia, North America, and South America. It's mostly on the Pacific plate, and there is Lassen, and for the volcanoes there is Lassen, Mount St. Helens, Rainier, Fuji, and Nevado del Ruiz.
Good job, Kamlesh. Let's just go a little bit more in detail on what is the ring of fire. The ring of fire is where over 75% of Earth's volcanoes are located. It is located in the Pacific Ocean, just as you said, on the Pacific plate. And name 5 volcanoes. What you said was perfect. Lassen, Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, Mount Fuji, and Nevado del Ruiz. You could have also said you could have said Krakatoa, for example, or you could have said Popocatépetl or Paracatine. So good job with that. Very good job on the warm-up. And now that the warm-up is done, let's move on to today's lessons. Natural disasters, part 2. Okay, so today we have a mystery, a wavy mystery. Scientist John Markmer is an oceanologist who likes to sample sand and water quality. One day he was sampling the pH of ocean water when suddenly a huge tsunami arrived and drowned him. He had the only water samples that would help oceanologists know about the increase in temperature through the 18th to 21st century. We are on a mission to find where John Markmer had last been seen, to retrieve the water samples, and to find out which tsunami had caused this. Through today's lesson, there will be clues and tricks to help us find out which tsunami had caused the vials to be buried under sand. But all we know so far is that John Markmer had samples of water from Chile, Japan, Indonesia, Thailand, India, Alaska, and Polynesia. Good luck. So let's start off with today's lesson. What is a tsunami? A tsunami is a series of waves in a water body caused by the displacement of a large volume of water, generally in an ocean or a large lake. They are usually large and can cause massive destruction if near a town or city. What causes a tsunami? A tsunami is a series of large waves generated by an abrupt movement on the ocean floor that can result from an earthquake, an underwater landslide, a volcanic eruption, and rarely a large meteorite strike. However, powerful undersea earthquakes are responsible for most tsunamis. The tsunami that had drowned John must have been from an earthquake, landslide, or a volcanic eruption. So let's go back to this page and let's see what our countries are. Once again, we have Chile, Japan, Indonesia, Thailand, India, Alaska, and Polynesia. Now, if we go back here to this slide, do you guys notice something about where these are located? So, for example, let's see. We have Alaska, which is located right over here. We have Indonesia located here. We have Japan. We have Polynesia, which is a couple of islands right in the center. Then we can have the Philippines. What else do we have? Let's see. Then other countries do include India, Chile, and Thailand, which is right over here, sorry. Now, what do we notice? So if we do it, okay, yes, let's see in the chat if anyone has an idea on where these are located. You guys will have a better idea if I do it on this map. We have Japan, we have the Philippines, we have, yes, a couple of you guys are getting it. We have Alaska, we have Chile, we have India, we have Thailand. Oh, if you have an idea, put it in the chat. Yeah. So we have Polynesia. So what do you guys notice? Perfect. All of you guys have got it. It is the Ring of Fire. We do notice that this, as we talked before in our last lesson, is the Ring of Fire. And if you guys do remember, the Ring of Fire is where most volcanoes are, but it's also where most earthquakes occur as well, on the faults. And this is our Pacific plate. And there is a plate here, our Eurasian plate, our Indian plate. We have our Pacific plate, North American, and South American. So we have most of our places that he had been to were on and the Australian plate. We're on the Ring of Fire. So now that that's through, we can understand that what must have caused it was either an earthquake or a volcano. Let's move on. So what are the parts of a tsunami? Tsunamis are much different than tidal waves and waves caused by winds. Understanding the parts of a tsunami help to uncover how a tsunami can destroy land. Both common ocean waves and tsunami waves have a crest and a trough that can be described by their period, time between two successive waves. Wavelength, which is the horizontal distance between waves, and speed and amplitude, which is the wave height. In the open ocean, tsunamis have extremely long wavelengths, the distance from one wave crest to the next wave crest, which can be between 100 and 300 kilometers, whereas normal ocean waves have the wavelengths of only 30 or 40 meters. Because a tsunami has such a large wavelength, its energy mobilizes the entire water column down to the seabed. Okay, deep water ocean surface waves causes water motion to a depth equal to half their wavelength. Ocean surface wave motion only reaches a depth of a few hundred meters or less. In contrast, tsunami waves behave like shallow water waves in the deep ocean. Tsunami waves only become dangerous once they reach the shallow waters near the coast. In a wave shoaling process, in coastal areas where water levels gradually become shallower, the wave will slowly slow down dramatically, become compressed, and grow steeper due to the decreasing water depth. Okay. So here is our diagram of a wave and our characteristics. So we have our wavelength, wave amplitude, crest, wave height, and trough. So, oh, and this line, if you guys don't know, is sea level. Sea level. Okay. Now, if we can understand just by the diagram on what each part is. So if this is sea level, our wave amplitude is from the crest of the wave to sea level. The wavelength is between two crests of two waves. The crest is the topmost part of the wave. The trough is the bottommost part of the wave. And the wave height is from the crest to the trough. But of course, the trough can be under sea level. So if the normal sea level is here, sometimes if the wave does get super high, it can go extra high. But as it goes extra high, it does take extra water with it, causing a depression over here. Okay, so if we look in our next diagram, we can see how as it runs up, it can run up because with our wave height, it can keep on going as it does slow down, but it can cause large waters to go on land. And depending on how big or how tall, how high up the crest is and how low down the trough is, it can be more destructive. So if this is a tsunami wave, our trough is usually going to be very high, or there are going to be lots of troughs. I mean, sorry, our crest is going to be very high and there are going to be lots of crests. Sorry about that. The wavelength is the distance between, the distance between two crests of a wave. And our wave height is from the top to the bottom of the wave. But if it's from the top to sea level, that's wave amplitude. Okay, so now that we should have a clear idea on parts of a wave, let's quickly go over it one more time. Our crest is the topmost part, our trough is the bottommost part. Our wavelength is between two crests. Our wave amplitude is between the wavelength and the sea level. The wave height is from the crest to the trough. Okay, now that's done. Let's move on. Okay, so let's get back to our mystery. Okay, so tsunamis caused by earthquakes. When these tectonic plates slip over, under, or past each other at the fault lines where they meet, energy builds up and is released as an earthquake. Undersea earthquakes sometimes cause ocean waves called tsunamis. Usually it takes an earthquake with a Richter magnitude exceeding 7.5 to produce a destructive tsunami. In the past 300 years, tsunamis that were caused by earthquakes include Chile 2015, Solomon Islands 2013, Japan 1993, Japan 2011, Indonesia 2010, Chile 2010, Samoa 2009, Japan 1983, Solomon Islands 2000, Indonesia 2006, Indonesia 2004, Thailand 2004, India 2004, Alaska 1965, Indonesia 1994, Chile 1960, Japan 1964, Alaska 1964, Alaska 1958, and Japan 1946. Now, there is a typo here. It's not 300, it's supposed to be 100 years. That should be okay. But if we look at this, we can see that if you guys know already, but I'll just quickly tell you, the Solomon Islands and Samoa are part of Polynesia, all those small islands. And if we think about it, most of these are occurring, for example, India and Thailand are part of the Indian Ocean, and the other ones are part of the Pacific Ocean. And Alaska ones are smallly part of the Arctic Ocean. So what we can see is that we can divide these by time period. So in our big ones are in the 1900s. The main ones are in the 1960s and 50s, this area, end of 1950s and start of 1960s. And there is a lot also going on at the end of the 2000s, at the start of 2000s and end of 1990s. For example, here, we have one here. But our big one is here. All of these are 2004. These are all 2004. And we also have a bunch in 2010 and 2015. So we can see there are increasing amounts of big earthquake-caused tsunamis coming towards our time period. For example, there's Chile and Indonesia, and also Japan in 2011. If you guys haven't heard of the devastating 2011 Japan, we'll talk a little bit about that too. So in the chat, can you guys type not where, but what time period, name 2 time periods where the most tsunamis were caused. I want maybe just 1 year. Name 2 years where tsunamis have been increasingly common, like extra common than usual. Because that would come in very important to the mystery later on. Give you all a minute for that. So a couple of your answers, most of your answers include 2004, 2010, and 1964. So let's keep those 3 dates in mind because they will come in handy. 2010, 2011, 2004, and 1964 and 1965. Okay, let's keep those dates in mind, but let's continue. Before knowing John's last location, you heard that a tremendous earthquake had occurred in the eastern part of either the Indian or Atlantic or Arctic Oceans. You are certain now where John might have been, but you don't know in which year the vials were lost. Keep on searching. Your earthquake choices include the earthquake in the Indian Ocean 2004, the earthquake in the Indian Ocean 2006, the earthquake in the East Indian Ocean in 2010, the earthquake in the North Atlantic Ocean in 2015, the earthquake in the Arctic Ocean in 1964, the earthquake in the Arctic Ocean 1958, and the earthquake in the Arctic Ocean in 1965. So in the chat, please type what your guess is. Which earthquake could it have been? And don't forget, remember, if you think from before, if you look at this carefully, look at where it is. Remember, it's either the Indian or Arctic Ocean or Atlantic Ocean. Remember where John might have been. So I think that we can cancel off one of these oceans already. And remember the main dates. Okay, then. Yeah, perfect. Okay, let's see. Let's see your guesses. Okay, then let's see your guys' answers. We have A lot of answers. Wow. So a couple of your answers are in 2010, but most of your answers are in 2004. And in fact, that is correct. It's the East Indian Ocean earthquake in 2004. As we remember, it was a very large earthquake because it did affect 3 different countries or more. Now, the only way for him to drown is if he was under a lot of water. He also must have also tried running inland. So it also must have been a flood. Let's talk about floods then. What is a flood? A flood results from days of heavy rain and or melted snows. When rivers rise and go over their banks, sometimes the rivers and streams are unable to hold the rain or melting snow simply because they are too full to hold it at all. Sometimes floods happen slowly over a period of days of steady rain or slowly melting snow. A flood is a rise of water with no place to go. Floods come in all depths, from just a couple of inches, feet, and the power of flood water is extraordinary and lethal. When a flood happens in an area that people live in, the water carries along objects like houses, bridges, cars, furniture, and even people. It can wipe away farms, trees, and many more heavy items. Floods occur at irregular intervals and vary in size, duration, and the affected area. It is important to note that the water naturally flows from high areas to low-lying areas. This means the low-lying areas may flood quickly before it gets to higher ground. Okay, so I think that's pretty clear, but if for those who don't understand, let's say we have this hill and we have the slope and we have a bunch of houses here, and over here we have a big lake, for example, okay? And we also have our ocean over here. And if this lake does flood, what will happen, it will always go downstream. If this floods, it will not go upstream unless it is super powerful. So that is not going to happen. So it will go downstream and it will cross out all houses, wash everything, and to another body of water, which is our ocean. So that just means that in a flood, water will always go from high to low area. Okay, let's move on. So causes of flood. Floods occur all over the world. Causes of floods include hurricanes, broken levees or dams, rapidly thawing snow, ice jam, and heavy, slow-moving rain or repeated rains. A flood can happen in a minute, a few days, hours, or over weeks. Rain is one of ours. Okay. Each time there are more rains than the drainage system can take. There can be floods. Sometimes there is heavy rain for a very short period that results in floods. In other times, there may be a light rain for many days and weeks that can also result in floods. The other type is river overflow. Rivers can overflow their banks to cause flooding. This happens when there are more upstream water than usual, and it flows downstream to the adjacent low-lying areas, also called a floodplain. There, it bursts and water gets into land. Okay. So in the chat, if any of you know a time that a flood has occurred, please type in the chat, because there are a couple that will help with John's mystery. Let's see you guys there. Okay, then let's see your answers. So we have a couple, it's okay if you don't know some, but there are a couple in Townsville, there are a lot in India, and there are a couple in Indonesia. So if we think about ours, of course, floods do occur mainly when in Indonesia or in other parts of Asia that we talked about. Okay, So now that that was done, let's talk about the rain. Sorry, no, let's talk about hurricanes, strong winds in coastal areas. Seawater can be carried by massive winds and hurricanes onto dry coastal lands and cause flooding. Sometimes this is made worse if the winds carry rains themselves. Sometimes water from the sea resulting from a tsunami can flow inland to cause damage. Dam breaking. Dams are man-made blocks mounted to hold water flowing from a high land. The power in the water is used to turn propellers to generate electricity. But sometimes too much water held up in the dam can cause it to break and overflow the area. Excess water can also be intentionally released from the dam to prevent it from breaking, and that can also cause floods. And we also have ice and snow melts. In many cold regions, heavy snow over the winter usually stays unmelted for some time. There are also mountains that have ice on top of them. Sometimes the ice suddenly melts when the temperature rises, resulting in a massive movement of water into places that are usually dry. This is usually called snowmelt flood. There are 5 different types of flooding, and they are aerial flooding, catastrophic flooding, coastal flooding, riverine flooding, and urban flooding. Aerial caused by heavy rainfall or snowmelt. Catastrophic floodings are caused by infrastructure failure, such as a collapsed dam. Coastal flooding is caused by rising seas, such as a storm surge for a hurricane or tsunami. Riverine or channel flooding is caused by an overflow from a lake, pond, river, or stream. Urban flooding is caused by the drainage or a storm sewer system that is overwhelmed. A flash flood is a sudden and rapid flooding of an area that is prone to flooding. Flash floods occur within a very, very short time, 2 to 6 hours, and sometimes within minutes. And usually is the result of heavy rain, dam break, or snow melt. Sometimes intense rainfall from snow-moving thunderstorms can cause it. Flash floods are the most destructive and can be fatal, as people are usually taken by surprise. There is usually no warning, no preparation, and the impact can be very swift and devastating. Effects of the flood. No matter how quickly it happens or the cause flooding is very deadly. Floods can have the effects on the economy, environment, and people. Economic. So during floods, especially flash floods, roads, bridges, farms, houses, and automobiles are destroyed. People become homeless. The government deploys firemen and police and other emergency workers to help the affected. As these come at a heavy cost to people and the government, it usually takes years for affected communities to rebuild and business to come back to normalcy. Environment. The environment also suffers when floods happen. Chemicals and other hazardous substances end up in the water and eventually contaminate the water bodies that floods end up in the water. For example, as we showed from the hill, from the lake at the top to the ocean, if there was a factory between with hazardous substances, when the flood comes through, it will carry those chemicals and will get polluted, and that will move into the non-polluted ocean, polluting the ocean as well. Another way is between people and animals. Many people and animals have died in flash floods. Many more are injured and others are homeless. Water supply and electricity are disrupted, and people struggle and suffer as a result. In addition to this, flooding brings a lot of diseases and infections, including military fever, pneumonic plague, dermatopathia, and dysentery. Sometimes insects and snakes make their ways to the area and cause a lot of havoc as well. Preventing floods. Humans cannot stop rain from falling or flowing surface water from bursting its banks. These are natural events, but we can do something to prevent them from having great impact. One is from sea or coastal defense walls. Sea walls and tide gates have been built in some places to prevent tide waves from pushing waters up ashore. In some areas too, sandbags are made and placed in strategic areas to retain floodwaters. Another way is by retaining walls. In some places, retaining wall levees, lakes, dams, reservoirs, or retention ponds have been constructed to hold extra water during times of flooding. And our third way is one of our best ways, which is vegetation. Trees, shrubs, and grass help protect the land from erosion by moving water. People in low-lying areas must be encouraged to use a lot of vegetation to help break the power of moving flood waters and also to reduce erosion, as it also helps to suck up more water and to hold the soil. Okay, so now that here is our wavy mystery conclusion, we're getting close to our conclusion. We'll conclude it after our quiz. Okay, so I will stop sharing my screen. You'll take the quiz, and after going over the quiz and announcing those who got 100%, we will finish up the mystery. Okay, then I'm posting the link in the chat. Okay, guys, let's go over today's quiz. Okay, so what's your name? We are class. So tsunamis occur mainly by a series of waves, water temperature, or the displacement of a large volume of water. So if you guys don't know, but water temperature and age don't really matter in a tsunami, but it is the displacement of a large volume of water, or displacement of a large volume can cause a series of waves. So if you don't know what displacement of a large volume of water is, so for example, if you're in a bathtub, this is a very nice example, and it can hold about, I don't know, 50 gallons. Let's say this is the 50-gallon mark, 50-gallon mark. And then this is our 25-gallon mark. And right now it's filled up to 25 gallons, right? Now, let's say how much you are, let's say you can hold 2 gallons in your body. So then that means that if you're a small person with 2 gallons, for example, when you go in, that will mean that your water temperature, the water, it won't be at 25 anymore, but instead it'll become at 27. But no water is lost, because when no more water is entered, the water level had risen, because you also hold gallons, and that also contributes. So when you come in, it displaces and gets higher, not containing your area. That's a very, very, very quick displacement in this type of occasion. But displacement is more of a physics term, which you guys will learn not in a very soon class, because that's a very advanced topic. What cannot cause a tsunami? The answer is a sea breeze. Tremors are a way of earthquakes, and sea breeze is not anything to do with tsunamis, as we talked about in our weather lesson. The past century, the biggest tsunamis are caused by earthquakes, not by meteorites, not by volcanoes or landslides. Tsunamis mainly occur in the Ring of Fire, mainly. They can occur in the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean, but mainly in the Ring of Fire. Respectively, the crust and trough, if you guys remember, the crust is the topmost and the trough is the bottommost. And respectively means crust and trough, if we can label them like number 1 and number 2, then it's top and bottom, number 1 and number 2. Not bottom and top, because that's 2 and 1, and that's not respectively. In this way, you're going to say it like crest is bottom and trough is top. So it's this third answer, top and bottom. Wave amplitude is from, so if we remember this question from before, just like before, wave amplitude is from sea level and top, which is the crest, so the sea level to the crest. Wavelength, on the other hand, is from crest to crest. And say you live in New Zealand. A tsunami occurs right outside your nearest beach, which is about half a mile away. How much danger are you in? you're in high danger because you are not only in the ring of fire, which causes a lot more, but tsunamis next to the beaches, right next to suburban areas, can cause very large floods, and it will cause damage, definite damage. In the open ocean, tsunamis' wavelengths are about how big? Tsunamis' wavelength in an open ocean are very long. Now this question, a couple of you guys got wrong. What can cause floods? Select all that applies. Tsunamis, snowfall, avalanches, not avalanches, rains, precipitation, and river overflow, hurricanes, broken dams, and thawing snow. Remember, tsunamis can cause floods. Snowfalls can and rains are forms of precipitation. River overflows when it floods, literally. Hurricanes also is another way. Broken dams, if the dam breaks, it will create a lot of water flooding out, and thawing snow when it does melt. Okay, and then why is vegetation a good way to stop floods? Not only does it stop erosion, but it does the other two. It sucks up water and holds the soil together. Let's make sure we are all correct. All correct, good job. That was today's quiz. Now, I will talk about those who got 100 last time and those who got 100 this time. Those who got 100 last time, there was Prodigy who got 100, but there was one other person, but I saw that he did get something, but he tried the quiz 2 times. You can try it again, but I will only count the first time you get it. Okay, so we do have how many hundreds? Okay, so we have, we have a couple hundreds. Good job with that. So let's see who got 100. Okay. So, okay, I'll also count the people who got more than 10, as it was a very hard quiz. Actually, more than 13 and more. So Harish got 13. Good job. It was a pretty hard quiz. What else? Then we have, okay, only 113. So those who got more than 10 should be okay too. Karthika got 11. That's good. Arav got 10. Swarnika got 11. Harish got 13, as we said before. Kartikeya got 11. Aryan got 10. Pratya got 10. And yeah. So all of you guys who did get more than 10, very good job for getting more than 10, because today's quiz was pretty hard. As always, you are allowed to take notes. So now onwards, I highly, highly encourage you to take notes, as it will not only be helpful in the future, but if you do some science competition, it'll also help, and it'll also help you memorize it. So now that we're finished with that, let's go on with the mystery. So this is a fun mystery. So if a flood had in fact drowned John, then we know for sure in which countries. Here are our 3 countries: Indonesia, India, and Thailand, because it was in the Indian Ocean. So there was one in Aceh, Indonesia, Tamil Nadu, India, and Khao Lak, Thailand. But if the tsunami and flood must have occurred close to the epicenter is right over here. And for those who don't know, this is where Aceh, Indonesia is. This is where Tamil Nadu, India is, over here. Oopsie daisies. Oh, sorry, that's a big drawing. And this is where Thailand is. So we have this big area for Thailand, this big area for India, and this big area for Indonesia. So in the chat, just take your best guess. Where do you think it is? Where do you think he was drowned and the vials are? Look, this is the epicenter, and these are where they are. We have a lot of answers. Oh, but most of you are getting it correct. It is, in fact, okay, Indonesia. Why? Because not only is it super close to where it occurred, it is right in the epicenter, which means that that must have felt the biggest earthquake and rushed with the tsunami right after and floods. So that was where John was. You have achieved the mission. You have found the vials buried under the sand in a beach in Aceh, Aceh, Indonesia. Along the way, you have learned about our aquatic natural disasters, tsunamis, and floods. Nice work, team. Okay, then. So, good job with today's mission. Good job, guys. Give yourself a round of applause for finding that out. We also learned about tsunamis and floods. And now that that's finished, I will stop sharing my screen and post the poll. I would really like if all of you can answer the poll, because we haven't done a poll for a very, very long time. So the poll has been launched. I have just launched the poll. And for those who don't know what's in the poll, for those who are watching from the recording, it is, today I tried something new, a mystery format, a story format, a storyline, which is used to engage with our students. Please choose if you think that we should do more of these and if it was fun and the best way to do class. Our options for those who are in the recordings were, it is fun and I want more of it. I felt more engaged. It is boring. I don't want it again. I don't feel engaged. It is fun. I want it every single class. I feel more engaged. And I hate it. I don't feel engaged. So after you do finish the poll, if you want to see the results of the poll, you can stay for another minute, because when in about 1 minute, it will end. And I will talk about it and share the results so you all can see what you guys said for the poll. And if we get a lot of them, we will do more mystery storylines. And for those who are asking and for those who were just wondering, because our lessons for natural disasters are really cool and we want to explain in our best way, there most likely will be a part 3 and part 4 for the first time with natural disasters. Okay, then I have ended the polling so you all can see what you guys, I've shared the results so you can see what your friends have put in the poll. So we have 10 of you who said it is fun and I want more of it. I felt more engaged. 14 of you said it was fun. I wanted every single class and I felt more engaged. And a couple of you, 2 of you did say that it was boring and you don't want it. I don't feel engaged. So for those the 2 who didn't like it, that's okay. But most of you, the majority, do want it more. So definitely there will be another mystery in either part 3 or part 4 of natural disasters. I can already guarantee that. And for those who don't want to participate in that, that's okay. You still come to class to learn, but you can just ignore it. It's always nice to participate as you learn more. It's more fun, but that's okay. Okay, then thank you everyone who's still here for joining today's lesson, Natural Disasters Part 2, Science Session 24. Thank you again for joining, and I'll see you all next week. Goodbye, guys.